We've also started to see reports of violence in some parts of the region. Just yesterday, Indian authorities reported that 2 people were killed during a shootout between the police and Kashmiri rebels.
Rebels? Really, Phil? Come on, man. These rebels, as Phil is calling them, are not rebels. These are terrorists that are trained by the Pakistani army and by Pakistani-sponsored terror organizations like Hizbul Mujahideen, like Jaish-e-Mohammed, like Lashkar-e-Tayyiba, like ISIS, like Al-Qaeda, all of whom are banned terrorist organizations. These aren't rebels, man. These are fucking terrorists. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Sharma Show. Thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you. So Phil DeFranco, who's a huge, massive YouTuber with a massive following, and he covers a lot of, current events and stuff that's going on YouTube. And he made a couple of videos recently about Kashmir. And I just thought that there's some things that he missed in his reporting. And I wanted to set the record straight when it comes to some of those things. But before I even get into the video, I just want to start off with something. And that is that I actually like Phil and his content quite a lot. I think he's one of the very few people on YouTube that is genuinely trying to present both sides of a story whenever he reports it. So I really think that he is as close to being unbiased as you can get on social media. And so I really respect the work that he does and his reporting on many issues. Having said that though, I think there are a few things in a couple of his videos that he did that I thought he got wrong. But again, I don't think he is to blame for all of it because the reporting on the Kashmir issue by the media has been extremely one-sided. There is no talk of the massive problems with Article 370 that quote-unquote gave Jammu Kashmir its autonomy. And it also doesn't talk about all the rights that have been restored to the people of Jammu and Kashmir by the removal of Article 370. So before I even go into what Phil DeFranco said in his video, I just want to give a quick primer of Article 370 and what its removal really means. So when India became an independent country, all the princely states that made up India were given 2 choices. They could either join India or join Pakistan. And every single princely state made that choice and joined either India or Pakistan. And similarly, Jammu and Kashmir was given that same option as well. And in 1947, the King of Jammu and Kashmir signed the Instrument of Accession with India and became an integral part of India. Every other princely state that became part of India also signed the same instrument of accession. However, Article 370 was inserted into the constitution by the then Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, without the consultation of his own cabinet. And that is why it is considered an illegitimate addition to the Indian Constitution. Also, Article 370, when it was inserted into the Constitution, was always intended to be a temporary measure. So under Article 370, Kashmiris were granted certain privileges that non-Kashmiris did not have. So there are no grounds to offer special privileges to Kashmir as opposed to other states. Because if you're offering special privileges to Kashmir, then what is stopping other states that became part of India to then demand special privileges as well? I mean, it's a recipe for utter disaster. So like I said before, under Article 370, Kashmir was granted certain privileges that other non-Kashmiris did not have, despite the state of Jammu and Kashmir being an integral part of India. For instance, non-Kashmiris could not be employed by the state government. Non-Kashmiris could not buy property in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Non-Kashmiris could not settle in Jammu and Kashmir, and non-Kashmiris could not get any scholarships or other such forms of aid as the state government of Jammu and Kashmir may provide. So that's bad enough, but on top of that, Article 370 heavily discriminated against the women of Kashmir. So if you're a Kashmiri man and if you marry a non-Kashmiri woman, you still get to keep your special privileges. Your wife will get those special privileges and your kids will also get those special privileges. But if you're a Kashmiri woman and if you decide to marry a non-Kashmiri man, you will lose those special privileges. Your husband will not get those special privileges, and your children will also not get those special privileges. So, for example, if you had some property in your name in Jammu and Kashmir, your kids under Article 370, if you married a non-Kashmiri man, would not be able to inherit that property. Now tell me, Is that fair? Article 35A also discriminated against the lower castes in India. So the scheduled caste Valmiki community was brought to Kashmir in 1957 to do manual scavenging work. So this community has lived in Kashmir for decades and is pretty much as Kashmiri as any other Kashmiri as well. If there is a person from the Valmiki community who wants upward mobility, who wants to get out of their profession of manual scavenging and wants to get a job with the government, which is pretty much the only kind of job that's available in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, they cannot do that. They cannot get a job with the government because they're prohibited under Article 370. This is clear discrimination against people on the basis of caste, and it is a clear violation of the protections that are provided to the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes under the Constitution of India. Also, let's not forget, Jammu and Kashmir isn't just the Kashmir Valley. Jammu and Kashmir also consists of Gilgit-Baltistan, Ladakh, and Jammu. But what happened because of Article 370 is that power got concentrated among a few powerful families from the Kashmir Valley. And so they basically monopolized all the jobs and all of the money. All of the central funding that was meant for the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir went into the pockets of the powerful families from the Kashmir Valley. There's a fantastic speech by a member of parliament from Ladakh who lays out how Ladakh was heavily discriminated against under Article 370 because the powerful families of the Kashmir Valley pocketed all of the money and all of the good jobs, and Ladakh got nothing. And it gets worse. Radicalization and terrorism have spread like cancer in Kashmir Valley because of Article 370. This radicalization brought about by Article 370 has directly led to the ethnic cleansing of 400,000 Hindus from the Kashmir Valley in 1990. And those people have still not gotten justice. Not only that, terrorism has ramped up in the valley massively as well. In 2017, there were 342 terror attacks in the valley, and 429 terror attacks happened in 2018 alone. So every year, dozens of innocent people and security forces lose their lives because of this radicalization in the valley that has been allowed to happen because of Article 370. So essentially, if you really look at the larger picture, the only people that are benefiting from Article 370 are Sunni Muslim men. Everyone else in Kashmir was suffering under Article 370. So now let's take a look at what Phil said in his video.
Kashmir is the contested region that both India and Pakistan say belong to them, with India controlling the largest part of the region. And on August 5th, India announced that they were revoking the special autonomous status granted to Kashmir for decades.
Again, this is completely incorrect. Pakistan has no legal claim on Kashmir whatsoever. Kashmir signed the instrument of accession with India and became an integral part of India, just like many princely states signed the instrument of accession with Pakistan and became integral parts of Pakistan. If tomorrow India comes out and says that Sindh is part of India, is Phil going to come out on his show and say that, oh, Sindh is claimed by both India and Pakistan? No. Similarly, Kashmir is a part of India.
This because after India launched airstrikes on Pakistan, Chopra tweeted out support, but Chopra is also at the same time a UN Goodwill Ambassador for Peace. Chopra responded by saying that she doesn't support war, but she is a patriot. If you want to see the more detailed version, I'll link to that video down below. But I also mentioned it because just yesterday, Pakistan's Minister of Human Rights wrote a letter to the UN requesting that they remove Chopra as a Goodwill Ambassador, with a letter saying that Chopra's support for war, including a nuclear war, undermines the credibility of the UN position to which she has been elevated.
Now look, I am in no way a supporter of Priyanka Chopra. She's an opportunistic person who has used certain opportunities in the past to get herself into the limelight and to try and virtue signal. She did the same thing with Diwali, where she was demonizing the festival of Diwali because people burst firecrackers on Diwali, and she basically blamed Diwali for all of India's pollution problems. And obviously that effort fell flat on its face. And I also agree that she probably shouldn't be posting stuff about the Indian Armed Forces if she's an ambassador for the United Nations. But Jai Hind is not a call for nuclear war. That's really a little bit of a stretch. It's like saying every time an American says, "In God we trust," that is a call for nuclear war. It's not. In fact, India has usually had a no first use policy. It is in fact Pakistan that has been threatening India consistently with nuclear war over the years.
Patriotism pop songs have just become massively popular on YouTube and TikTok, which also makes sense. TikTok has about 150 million users in India, YouTube around 250 million, so we're talking about millions upon millions of views. Earlier songs in the genre were reportedly focused on the rise of Hindus in India defeating Pakistan and flying the Indian flag in every household, but according to the AP, just hours after Modi stripped Kashmir of their special status, music videos began circulating about Indians settling in Kashmir and buying land and marrying Kashmiri women. One video, for example, called Article 370, named after the now revoked constitutional article that gave Kashmir its autonomous status. That video has now over 1.6 million views, and the singer thanks Modi and his government for removing Article 370. Also, the guy who made that video also collaborated on another song about a man who's looking for a Kashmiri bride, which, regarding that specific point, there's been a lot of criticism.
Look, man, this has mostly been a meme and a joke in India. The whole reason why people are making jokes and memes about this issue is to point out how preposterous the restrictions under Article 370 were. As I said before, a Kashmiri man could marry a non-Kashmiri and not lose his rights, but a Kashmiri woman could marry a non-Kashmiri and lose her rights. Similarly, no businesses ever came to Kashmir because they weren't allowed to buy any property there. So Kashmiris potentially missed out on tons of development and thousands of good paying jobs simply because of the restrictions of Article 370. On the other hand, Kashmiris can buy land wherever they want and work wherever they want in the rest of India freely. So because of how insanely discriminatory Article 370 was, a good way to point it out was making jokes about it and making memes about it. And no one's lining up outside the Kashmir border trying to kidnap Kashmiri women and marry them. Excuse me, sir, why are you standing outside the Kashmir border today? Oh, well, since the government got rid of Article 370, I thought I'll go and, kidnap and marry some Kashmiri women. No one's doing that. And look, I can understand some of these patriotic pop songs, they can be misogynistic, they can be bigoted. In fact, there was a song recently that was very heavily bigoted towards Muslims. So I understand that some of these songs can be bigoted, but that doesn't mean that that's what the mainstream is. That doesn't mean that that's what most people think. Most people on social media that are making these jokes, making these memes, they are just doing it in good fun and to poke fun at the incredible discrimination that people experienced under Article 370.
There was a political anthropologist who spoke to the AP that hit on that, saying that the songs are a culmination of a toxic, misogynistic, nationalist thinking, and adding that the Indian media, from news to entertainment, has left no stone unturned in portraying Kashmiri women in the racist trope of coveted fair-skinned ones, and at the same time being helpless and needing saving from their own men, right? And so demonizing Kashmiri men.
Kashmiri men do not need anyone else to demonize them. They're good enough to demonize themselves because they used Article 370 to concentrate all political power in their hands, and they took away good jobs and central funding from the areas of Ladakh and Jammu, which, by the way, are part of Jammu and Kashmir. They would keep their special privileges if they married a non-Kashmiri, but the women would lose their privileges. They used Article 370 and the myth of Kashmiriyat to ethnically cleanse the Hindus of Kashmir that have been living in Kashmir for thousands of years. So Kashmiri men honestly do not need anyone to demonize them. They're doing a really good job of that themselves.
Now, also of note, we haven't seen Kashmiris respond to these new videos, and that of course is because the entire region has been cut off from the internet since August 5th. And like we talked about before, along with cutting off communications, India has also sent tens of thousands of military forces to Kashmir, right, to basically put the city on lockdown by enforcing an almost constant curfew, patrolling the streets. The people of Kashmir have also responded with a series of protests.
Now look, as far as the situation of the lockdown in Kashmir goes, I can understand that that is a concern. I can understand that people are concerned about that. But people, I think, also need to understand that if the government had choreographed its actions, if the government had choreographed to everyone that they're going to remove Article 370, then the Pakistani army would have kicked into gear, and the Pak-sponsored terror groups would have also kicked into gear, and so terrorists and stone pelters would have been out in massive numbers to cause havoc in Kashmir. We need to understand that this is not a stable, peaceful area. This is an area where there were 429 terror attacks in 2018 alone. This is an area infested with terrorism and radicalization. If the government had choreographed its actions, there most definitely would have been terror attacks that the troops and the people did not foresee, and there would have been casualties. The special status is what the terrorists have been fighting for. Because if the special status is gone, then that is a massive blow to terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir, because Kashmiris will have jobs, Kashmir will have development, and if people have jobs, well-paying jobs, they will be much less inclined to become terrorists. So you're talking about protests in Kashmir and internationally, talking like it's some kind of a peaceful protest. So let me show you some videos from quote-unquote reputable organizations like the BBC and Al Jazeera, which covered these protests. So you can see in the video that there were mobs carrying photos of dead terrorists and flags of banned terrorist organizations like Jaish-e-Mohammed and ISIS. These are two terrorist organizations that have been banned by the US, the UK, India, the UN, France, among many other countries. Both of these organizations are responsible for taking the lives of innocent citizens in India. You do not carry flags of terrorist organizations and photos of dead terrorists if you're carrying out a peaceful protest. Also, only recently, a truck driver by the name of Noor Muhammad was murdered by a mob of stone pelters that are considered to be peaceful protesters. Also, Islamic terrorists murdered 2 Kashmiris from the Gujjar community only a couple of days ago. Does this sound like a peaceful protest by a group of people who are only concerned about their rights? And that is also why the army is there.
We've also started to see reports of violence in some parts of the region. Just yesterday, Indian authorities reported that 2 people were killed during a shootout between the police and Kashmiri rebels. So that marking the first reported clash involving gun violence in India-controlled Kashmir since the lockdown began.
Rebels? Really, Phil? Come on, man. See, the thing is, when you say the word rebels, there's a certain idea in Americans' minds. For example, they think of the rebels from Star Wars. The rebels from Star Wars did not ethnically cleanse people. The rebels from Star Wars did not murder innocent people in cold blood. These rebels, as Phil is calling them, are not rebels. These are terrorists that are trained by the Pakistani army and by Pakistani-sponsored terror organizations like Hizbul Mujahideen, like Jaish-e-Mohammed, like Lashkar-e-Taiba, like ISIS, like Al-Qaeda, all of whom are banned terrorist organizations. These aren't rebels, man. These are fucking terrorists.
But ultimately, that is where we are right now. It seems like the situation is just escalating and escalating. I really don't know if an end to this is in sight.
Look, it is okay to be concerned about the people of Kashmir, and I think it's a legitimate question to ask the government of India about what its future roadmap for Kashmir is. It's important for the government to start lifting the restrictions, and they've already started to do so. And there are already reporters that are in Kashmir and that are reporting from Kashmir. And Prime Minister Modi has also made it clear that it is his priority to ensure development of Kashmir and the Kashmiri people, which is why Jammu and Kashmir is also set to host a 3-day Global Investors Summit in Kashmir from October 12th. So clearly, development of the people and betterment of the people is something that is high on the government's priority list. So I think it's very legitimate, and I think it's a good thing to keep an eye on the actions of the government. But I really take a massive issue when people are trying to paint the situation as some kind of a fascist government clamping down on these helpless people and the brave rebels are just fighting back against this fascism. That is not what is going on in Kashmir. But again, other than that, I have nothing but respect for Phil DeFranco. I think, again, he is as close to an unbiased commentator as you can get on social media. I just thought that he had a blind spot when it came to Kashmir, and I just wanted to make sure that I helped clear out some of the misinformation. And other than that, guys, I want to ask you, did you watch Phil's video? What do you think about his video and his take on the issue? Let me know in the comment section down below. Guys, if you enjoyed today's video, please make sure to leave a like, leave a thumbs up. It helps me out, it helps the channel out. And if you'd like, please make sure to share the video to spread awareness as well. You can share it with Phil if you'd like as well. If you like the Sham Sharma Show and if you'd like to support the Sham Sharma Show, please click on the Patreon link down below. Become a patron of the show. You get a ton of exclusive content, and you also get to become a part of our special Patreon-only WhatsApp group and Discord group where we have a ton of great conversations, and you can become a part of those if you sign up as a patron as well. And on top of that, you get to support the show too. If you like what we do here on the Sham Sharma Show, if you enjoyed today's episode, and if you have not subscribed already, what are you doing? Click on the subscribe button down below. Make sure to subscribe, press the bell icon, and check out other videos that we have for the show over here on the channel as well. I will see you for the next episode, and until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys soon.